It's Monday night. Happy Monday night, everybody.
Thank you all for being here as well. My name is Rachel Curtis. I'm an adult programming coordinator. Kathryn Kauffman. Miss Kathryn Kauffman, all the way from Lexington, joining us here tonight.
My name is Kathryn Kauffman, and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome to my every Monday night show. This is where we discuss what we are and who we are in this journey called life. Thanks for joining me this evening. We'll do some shout outs in just a minute. Hey to all you guys over here on Instagram. This is a live chat show, and you feel free to answer or ask any question that you want to ask me about the topic that we're having tonight. Tonight's episode is going to be based on our last nature element, the Salamanders of Fire. So let's do some quick shout outs. Hey to Tony. Special shout out to Ricky. I hope you're feeling better. Shout out to Corey Southworth. Thanks for joining me for dinner the other night. That was so much fun, and we'll have to do that again. Special shout out to Johnny. I hope you're feeling okay and you're doing better. And Dawn and Susan and Nicolay, thanks for joining us, and Jason. For all you guys that are on my professional page, I left a link there for you to join us over here on the personal page. If you want to get in on the live chat, this is the only page that is doing the live chat. So if you just want to hang out there on the professional page and watch, feel free. Again, if you want to ask any questions, just put them in the comments. If I don't get to them during the show, I definitely will get to them after the show or maybe even tomorrow. Hey to Elizabeth and Jamie. Okay, I want to do a quick announcement too. May the 6th, we're going to go over how to identify a psychic attack. This is a topic that everybody's been waiting on, and I've been working really hard on the presentation to give that to you. And then May the 13th, we're going to go over how to defend yourself against a psychic attack. So be sure and tune in for those. And I do want to let you guys know that if you miss one of the shows, or you just want to go back and watch the old shows of all that really good content, all of these episodes are saved to my YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link to the YouTube channel in the comments after we get done, and that way you can go back and watch all the past episodes. So if you wanted to know about the other elementals, those are already on my YouTube channel. So gnomes, sylphs, undines, those are all already loaded up on the YouTube channel. Now, after May 13th show, the next couple weeks, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, maybe, kind of a vacation. I may do a couple of streams on things that I'm doing, but there won't be any official content. We may just do some fun stuff, like I may take you to dinner with me or something. Hey to Jennifer Oliver, Angie, and Tom Driver. Thanks for joining us this evening. So this is the last in the episode of the elementals. Why am I bringing up elementals at this time of year? Elementals are classically problems at this time of year, specifically with horses and barns, dogs, cats. It seems that a lot of people will have problems with their pets being disturbed by elementals at this time of year. What's happening with that is that the energy of the earth is in a surge in this hemisphere with the growth and spring that's happening. And because the elementals are connected to nature, they're in kind of an upheaval as well, and their energies are very mischievous and very forward, and making their presence known. And in particularly, they like to play with and pick at animals. So we see a lot of complaints from barn owners or dog owners that strange things are happening to their pets and their horses and in the barns. Hey to Angie Schnell and Jen McGee. Thanks for joining us this evening. And a shout out to Raymond Rivas. Hey to over here on Instagram. I can't pronounce your name though, but thanks for joining us anyway. All right, well, let's get into salamanders. And you know, a long time ago when I learned about salamanders, and we're talking in dinosaur times 30 years ago or so, I just took it for granted. Salamander is the fire elemental. I didn't really wonder why, because you know the salamander body is undulating, kind of like a fire flame, and so I thought that's why it was named a salamander. Happy Monday, Patricia. So I didn't really think about it too much until I started doing the research for the show, and I found out some really interesting things about why I think salamanders are named salamander, the fire element. And we'll get into that. So the first thing that I want to discuss is what a salamander actually is in the physical, in nature, not the elemental. But salamanders are different than lizards. Lizards are kind of dry heat type of things, and then the salamander is more of a wet creature. It has a lizard-like shape to the body, but it has these speckles all over it that can be golden or yellow, and that's kind of why I wore my salamander shirt of gold tonight, just for fun. But anyway, they only come out like after really heavy showers, when everything is really wet, and the moment the weather turns off dry again or clear, then you don't see them. And a lot of times the only way that you're going to see them is if you turn a log over, you turn a rock over, and there they are. And thank goodness we were able to show, David and I were able to show our grandchildren a real salamander at his mom's place up in the mountains, and it was black. It had yellow spots on it. It was really quite beautiful. They are beautiful creatures. So are lizards, but it seems like the salamanders are more brightly colored and brightly marked than the lizards. Now, although salamanders are amphibian and they like the water, how did we ever get the salamanders in association with the fire element? That is a very good question, because the salamanders of the element of fire are birth givers, and they have the energy of fire contained within them. So the lore of the salamanders in this elemental range are attributed to the presence of coronas, or points of discharge. So they are initiators of energy, and they are actually thought in the past to produce electric fields of energy. And sometimes they were thought to produce great glowing orbs of fire. So this is in the mythology, and the emotions that were associated with the element of fire, or with the salamanders, and here are some of the words that are associated with these emotions: wild, bold, sultry, feisty, lively, energizing, impetuous, passionate, consuming, enlightening, illuminating, and commanding. So the elements, the elementals of fire were said to have lived in volcanoes, especially dormant volcanoes, and they were said to have sleeping or slumbering salamanders. So when the volcanoes erupted, that was someone who had entered that realm and evoked the wrath of a sleeping salamander. And then the lava flows were considered the tongue of the salamander to lick up everything in the path of where it was going. So to disturb a salamander was not in the best interest of anybody close to that volcano. Hey to Sheila Arthur, thanks for joining us this evening. Okay, back to some of the folklore here. They believe that the creature was a product of fire, and that it kind of unleashed that raw energy from it. And it described that anybody, oh, this was really, really interesting. So, and I kind of did a chronological order on this. The first mention of a salamander that I could find was 4th century Talmud mythology. And they have a lot of mythology about monsters in the Talmud. And one of these was a salamander. So it was said in order to bring about a salamander, you had to burn a fire in the same spot for 7 years to produce or bring about a salamander. Now, as the salamander emerges from the fire, you were supposed to take your hand and wipe it in the blood of the salamander and smear yourself with it. And if in doing so, you were impenetrable to any type of fire in the area where you smeared the blood of the salamander. This was interesting reading. So then it kind of made sense of why salamanders were connected to fire if this was in the mythology of the Talmud. So I found that was extremely interesting. It made people immune to harm from fire. And this was 4th century. Now in the 5th century, and I'm going to try to say this correctly, Empedocles wrote a lot of doctrine about the elements, not specifically the elements of nature like we're talking about the nature spirits, but just the elements were written about in the 5th century. Then we skip all the way to the 16th century, where Paracelsus wrote his doctrine on the elements of nature and kind of descriptively separated all the gnomes and the fairies and the nymphs and the sylphs and the salamanders. So this is all extremely interesting, but I think that the original doctrine from 4th century Talmud was probably where the salamander reference to fire came from. So that was very, very interesting. Another thing that the Talmud states is that the salamanders cannot survive outside of the fire. So they're at one with the element of fire, and that these entities cannot survive separated from the fire, which was very interesting. Now, the salamanders, what they do is they infuse matter with creation. And so they are, in a sense, activators of the life force. Okay? That's what they are said to do. So they imbue creation with the energy of spirit. Hey, Chantel. Let's see. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to see you here. How are things up in Cincinnati, where you're at? Hey to Anna and Jean Matthews McHatton and Debbie Farrar and David Graham and Brittany. I want to ask Jean Matthews, what do you think about this Talmud reference with the salamanders? Were you aware of that at all? Had you ever read anything about that? And I'll just point that to you people in general. Has anybody ever read that before? Is this just something new that you're learning about, like me. So back to what they do, they do mention that salamanders material oscillation of light within the nucleus of every atom, and they activate and help create life from the fire or the spirit fire. So they can exist in electricity, firelight, flames, candles. They're agents for transferring fire in our daily life. They represent and embody the spark of life. So I thought that was really kind of interesting. Yeah, Patricia and Angie, I wanted to know, what the origination of, the salamander and fire. And like I said, this 4th century reference is the earliest thing that I could find about the salamanders being at one with fire. So that was really interesting. Now, the salamanders, if they're not sustained by the fire energy, let's say, you made that fire and you kept that fire going for 7 years in the same spot, and you were able to commune with this energy of the salamander, and let's say you started to, I'm not going to tend the fire anymore. Once the spark is lost, or the velocity of the energy is lost with that salamander, life and matter begin to disintegrate. The light recedes, it retracts, and the salamander dissipates, and the energy goes elsewhere to the force, the life force, and the spirit that's happening in another area. Yes, Angie loves salamanders. But you know what? If you look at the other elements of nature, we don't really focus on salamanders that much. It's like a foregone conclusion. Yeah, they're there, and we really don't put enough emphasis on the importance of the salamander's energy, because if they're the activator of life, if they transfer the light, if they transfer that spark of energy, that's so very important to life on the planet. And I think that we probably need to focus a little bit more on the salamanders, because we just kind of skip over these nature elements in a lot of different doctrines and teachings. And it feels like, the very basis of nature, perpetuation and activation of nature, is all based on, from what they're saying, the light energy of the salamander. So I thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to bring that to you guys tonight to see what you guys thought of that. Hey to Daniel Baker, Melissa, Amanda, Carrie, and Pamela. Hope you're feeling good, Pamela. Now, how do the salamanders disrupt things with animals at this time of year? You might find that the salamander energy is at work in the birthing process, perpetuating that spark of life. A lot of breeding aspects, the light passing on from one generation to another. During the mating process of animals and of people, that light spark, or that light perpetuation from 2 energies to make 3. So we have something that's activating that, and I feel like that's the energy of the salamander. So that's if anybody has any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I could find about salamanders, but I think that gives us a little bit better idea of how the association got started between the element of fire and then the salamander. So somehow back in the Talmud, they decided the salamander was this essence of fire, or this fire creature. And so Daniel says, what about lightning bugs? Yes, lightning bugs too, Daniel. Absolutely, lightning bugs. And don't forget, you guys, and I can't reiterate this enough, our DNA holds light. Our DNA is made of light. That's a scientific fact now. Each DNA strand holds 1,000 photons. We also radiate bioluminescence. And I've got like a 3-part series on how we are made of light, all the different kinds, wavelengths of light, why we can't see that light. You know, they just now have developed cameras that will pick up the body's emanation of bioluminescence. And so bioluminescence, Daniel, is what the lightning bugs do. They glow, and our bodies glow, and our DNA glows as well. But we do have to have special equipment to pick that up. Hey to Natalie, thanks for joining us. And so, you know, are we a product of this salamander elemental fire energy? Maybe. It's a good postulation to think about. So I want to leave that with you guys tonight. I hope you guys are enjoying the spring. Today was a beautiful day. It went from 43 this morning into 81 this afternoon. That's a big, huge change, but I've got the windows open and I'm enjoying it. Now, don't forget, next Monday night is going to be episode 1 of how to identify a psychic attack. And then the following Monday will be how to defend yourself against a psychic attack. Hopefully, I will have somebody who can come on the show with me and talk about their experience with this topic. And so look for the postings. And I will see you next Monday night. Kisses from Kentucky. Bye, guys. Have a fabulous week.